The movie begins in a depressing-looking office where Greg is leaning on his desk while he daydreams and sketches about things he has never seen before, ignoring the consistently ringing phone. In the background, Greg's voice is heard monologuing, explaining the thought behind his drawings and saying that they felt like home. Suddenly, Greg sees his phone ring and quickly picks it up when he notices his daughter's picture pop up on the screen. After he answers, he and his daughter, Emily, converse about her graduation ceremony, and she asks him to come, while suggesting he see them the following day so as not to create tension with her mother. He hears the office phone ring loudly, telling his daughter he would call her back. Greg answers the phone and hears his boss's assistant explain he is needed immediately. Before leaving, Greg makes a call to the pharmacy that provides his medication, but is told that he needs a prescription to get his medication refilled. Feeling rushed by his boss's assistant, Greg goes to the man's office and waits for him. A few minutes later, a chubby Bjorn walks out of the bathroom and tells Greg that the company has been suffering because of his incompetence, eventually firing him. Surprised by the news, Greg stays deathly still, contemplating what he just heard, until he suddenly jumps up to his feet. The unexpected action causes Bjorn to trip back and hit his head on the table. Shocked at what he had just done, Greg quickly checked on the man's pulse and realized he was already dead. Fearing getting caught, Greg hides the body behind the curtain and quickly leaves the office, heading to the bar located across the office. Ordering a strong drink, Greg takes quick sips of the whiskey and feels strange as a woman sitting by the window stares at him. After waving her hand around for a bit, the woman calls out to him and asks him if he knows he is real and tells him to come sit with her. When he refuses the offer, she walks over to him and introduces herself as Isabella, mentioning that she knew he needed an alibi. Shocked that she knew what he did, he joined her at the booth and asked her how she knew what had happened, unaware that the body he left in the office could be seen from the bar. Isabel begins to tell him notions he finds ridiculous, mentioning that only a few of them were real people and that she was partially responsible for the creation of the world. She then tells him that her ex-boyfriend, who was in the bathroom, had taken her necklace and asks Greg to bring it back to her, promising she would help him with his issue after. After retrieving the necklace, which held a vial that contained yellow crystals that Isabel told him could manipulate the world they were living in, Isabel talks Greg into making his boss's death a suicide by simply using his mind. Rushing out of the bar, he heads over to where his boss had fallen from the building and speaks to other colleagues who had witnessed the whole thing, giving Greg a solid alibi. Following Greg out of the bar, Isabel takes him to her makeshift shade where she lives, making Greg think that she is homeless. When he refuses to stay there and tells her that he would rather go to his motel, she reminds him that he had left his wallet containing all his information in his office and advises that it wouldn't be the best time for him to return now. After he decides to stick around, Greg is excited to hear the news announce that there was no foul play regarding Bjorn's death, making him free from suspicion. Later that night, Isabel tells him more about the world she is trying to convince him is made up, showing him that he too has the ability by making him light up candles with his mind. Isabel then asks Greg about the house he envisions for himself and takes a look at the sketches he has done of them. When she sees a sketch of her amongst the drawings, Isabel tells Greg that what he drew wasn't a fantasy, but a real representation of their lives outside of the simulation, telling him that he was her man. Looking at him deep in the eyes, Isabel asks him to kiss her, and they lock lips in the beautiful candle-lit atmosphere. Leaning into the fantasy, Isabel and Greg go roller skating, where they have fun taking down people who are rude to them, passionately kissing and showing affection to each other. Leaving the ring, Isabel and Greg stand outside while they watch the police arrest some of the bullies that they had taken down, when suddenly, Greg finds himself in the back of the police car. After they post bail, Greg shows her the empty vial and tells her that they had run out of yellow crystals that were allowing them to manipulate the world around them, but Isabel tells him not to worry about it, offering that they get something to eat. Meanwhile, worried about her father, Emily is searching for her father, but is unable to track him down. After they leave the station, Greg and Isabel head over to a nearby fast food restaurant, where Isabel tells him to order them something and that she will be inside in a bit. While he tries to order, he realizes that he is short on cash and is shocked when he sees Isabel get inside a car and leave. Waiting for her outside the restaurant until night, Greg watches as Isabel finally arrives. After sharing the meal he had been given by the restaurant clerk, Isabel takes him to get more crystals and makes him wait outside a building while she gets them. While he is standing outside, Emily sees him passing by and quickly stops the taxi. Hurrying toward her father, Emily begs him to come with her, revealing that it has already been 2 weeks since her graduation, which he had completely forgotten about. Realizing his confusion, Emily writes him her number and tells him to contact her when he is ready. Isabel arrives as soon as Emily leaves and asks him who that is, telling him that she isn't real as soon as she finds out she is his daughter. After having a little too many crystals to fend off people who were harassing him, Greg feels ill and wakes up the next morning in Isabel's shade, alone. After looking around and seeing that she was nowhere in sight, Greg headed out to call the number Emily had given him. After leaving his daughter a message, Greg returns to find a panicking Isabel, who has assumed he has left her. When Isabel begins yelling at him about attempting to see his daughter, Greg tells her that they shouldn't be spending time together anymore, which drives her even more crazy. When he makes it clear that he doesn't believe what she is saying anymore, Isabel explains that she can prove that they are living in a simulation. Taking out a box from her safe, she reveals blue crystals that she explains are very rare and that they can be used to return to reality. Telling him that it needs to be taken through the nose, she gives him the device and administers the crystals or him. When he wakes up, Greg finds himself attached to a giant computer with several other people and sees Isabel communicating with a technician about her experience, telling him the reason they ejected. After disconnecting him from the brain box, Isabel takes him out and shows him the city, a beautiful utopia, unlike the simulation they had been inside. Taking him to the market, she shows him the exact place his drawings were based on, surprising him at how accurately he had remembered it, even though he couldn't remember their life there. Taking him to their house, Isabel explains that their world used to be worse than the simulation, but humanity was able to adapt by developing different scientific methods to abolish poverty. Although Isabel is worried that Greg doesn't remember their life there, Greg is not at all concerned, telling her that it made him appreciate it even more. Deciding to stay an extra day before going back into the simulation, the couple go out on a boat ride and finds out that they had completely forgotten about a mixer they were supposed to attend that night. That evening, Isabel and Greg have a brief altercation after she sees him speaking to another man of science who expresses his concern about Isabel's reputation. After calming her down, Greg and Isabel rejoin the party. Meanwhile, up on the ledge, fragments of the simulation seem to be spilling into reality, and we see Emily looking down at her father, speaking with an undisclosed man. The following morning, Greg goes for a swim and finds Isabel stressing over her research, fearful of what the arrogant people of the scientific world would think about it. Calming her down, Greg urges her to release her discovery to the world and allow them to experience it firsthand, telling her that they would love it. Finally agreeing with him, Isabel published her brainbox idea of an ugly world that people can log into so they have more appreciation for the real one. Using Greg as a test subject, Isabel presents him to the public, showing them the contrast between his old careless answers and the newfound vigor he had for life. On the last question, Isabel asks Greg if he felt like was missing something or someone in life. As soon as he hears the question, Greg begins to see a holographic version of his daughter, Emily, walking down the hall, giving him pause for a few seconds. Collecting himself, he tells the audience that he feels completely fulfilled and that nothing is missing from his life. Later, while being congratulated by people from the scientific world, Greg sees a vision of his daughter and rushes up the stairs to speak to her. When he finally catches up to her, she tells him that he isn't thinking clearly because of the drugs he was taking, making him doubt himself. Suddenly, Isabel also begins to see parts of the simulation materialize in real life and begins to call out to Greg, helping her escape the masses of people now, forming a riot. The two rush to the lab, Isabel telling Greg that she thinks they had brought some of the simulations back with them because they hadn't taken the correct amount of the blue crystals. Connecting them back into the simulation, Greg and Isabel wake up under Isabel's tent, and the two set out to find more blue crystals. The two then manage to steal a car from a random man, and they rush to a nearby facility where one of her volunteers using the brain box would provide her with the blue crystals. After she asks the man for the crystals, Isabel finds him suspicious and shoots him down. Grabbing the crystals in his pocket, Gray and Isabel rush back to her makeshift shed and count the crystals they had taken, disappointed that they only had enough for one. Nearby, the police have started to close in, calling out for them to come out with their hands on their heads. When Isabel informs him of the situation, Greg refuses to remain in the simulation. Feeling sorry for him, Isabel offers him the crystals, but he suggests that she kills him, which he hoped would revive him in the real world. Isabel begins to panic as everything seems like it is closing in on them, telling Greg that it was all her fault. Seeing the fear on her face, Greg tells Isabel that what she has created is amazing and assures her that he will never leave it, giving her the chance to escape. Handing him the picture of his daughter, Isabel goes out into the open to create a diversion for Greg to escape. While he watches from afar, he sees Isabel snort the crystals and disappear. Having been given enough time and diversion, Greg ran away from the vicinity, making sure none of the officers had seen him. A few weeks after he has been left in the simulation world, Greg begins his AA meetings to come to terms with his new existence. One afternoon, he goes to see his daughter with flowers in hand and is happy that he has decided to stay. The movie comes to a close as Emily embraces her father, telling him that she is just happy that he is there with her. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our video. Watch the next recaps on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.